Welcome to Hack Talks, brought to you by the NetWitness Incident Response Team, your weekly dive into the hottest picks, the strangest twists, and you couldn't make this up, moments in global cybersecurity. Every week, we break down what's happening out there, challenge a bit of conventional thinking, and of course, we crown this week's epic fail. My name is Gordon Dixon, your host based in Glasgow, Scotland, and I'm joined as always by Stefano Macalia, the director based in Rome. Ciao, Stefano.
Ciao, Gordon. Ciao, everyone.
And James Sobel, senior manager, based usually in Merritt Island, Florida, but on the road again this week. Hi, James.
Hey, guys. Doing the mobile thing and loving it. Great to be here with you.
You will be assimilated.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. All right, let's start with in the news, the stories that grabbed our attention this week. There's been no shortage of eyebrow raisers. And this week, James, we're going to start with you. What's caught your eye?
Yeah, the eyebrows have gone way up, and this comes from Bleeping Computer and a whole bunch of other sources. I mean, it was all over the news. This is Patch Tuesday from Microsoft coming in hot and heavy. Microsoft drops fixes for 167 bugs, including 2 0 days. If this doesn't, wake folks up to it's not if, but when, I don't know what will. But, patch it later is a really poor lifestyle choice, guys. About 100 privilege escalation flaws, pile of remote code execution bugs. Attackers love this stuff. Gain a foothold, take control. So one of these 0 days was already in the wild. This is SharePoint spoofing, quietly leaking and all your information, allowing attackers to tamper with sensitive data across networks. The other one we might poke at a little while later in the episode, which is Defender dealing out system level privileges. Wow. This is a scale of abuse being addressed that is very interesting. Zoom out, folks. Not just Microsoft taking it on the chin this week. And by the way, doing a really good thing by patching all these things. This is not a knock on them, but Adobe, Apple, Cisco, Fortinet, Google, SAP, everybody is really up in their game on patching. So, word to the very wise and the not so wise, time to patch those systems, folks. Guys, what do you think?
Well, I think this is the demonstration that the artificial intelligence applied to bug searches is working. And I know quite well how difficult it is to carry out the bug hunting. So being a malware researcher, I know all the problems that are connected with, from one side, studying the code if you have it available, or reverse engineer the code. From the other side, let's say having a proper lab to test your ideas. And thanks to the artificial intelligence, this job is surely, let's say, evolved, has evolved a lot. And from the other perspective, also the effectiveness of the analysis is way more mature. And that is obviously, let's say, generating big patches like this one. From one side, I think this is an important sign of the let's say integration of the AI into this field. From the other side, is obviously connected with to ring the bell, let's say, of ensuring the patch is delivered soon as possible in your systems, guys, because this is really dramatically problematic to handle otherwise if you are already breached by these things. Because, the guys from the other side of the fence are obviously collecting the patches shared by Microsoft, reverse engineering them just to understand how the exploitation techniques can work. So be aware, this huge patch has already started the interest of the malicious guys and the reverse engineers of their side in order to find a way to exploit effectively whatever system is unpatched yet. So be aware, be careful, speed up your deployment, the delivery of these patches soon as possible. This is my recommendation. Gordon.
Absolutely. And I think that's a really important point that you both were making. The patches are getting more sophisticated as teams are working harder to cover and lock down any breaches or risks that there are. But when you're sitting there going, I haven't patched yet, then I think this was in your notes, James, you were in effect in a state of pre-breach. You are sat there vulnerable because, as you say, Stefano, the threat actors are already working on what those vulnerabilities that the patch is covering. So if you're not moving fast on this, then you are at risk. And I think, as you said, James, it's not if, it's when. So you have to move fast on these things. And Stefano, what has caught your eye this week in the news? What do you want to share with us?
Thank you, Gordon. Well, this is a topic that can easily fix into the epic fail, but I want to be, let's say, cautious this time. Let me just introduce the topic. McGraw Hill, the company that literally sells books on how the world should work, has just delivered a live demonstration of how it actually works in 2026. Shiny hunters poked at a misconfigured Salesforce experience cloud site belonging to McGraw Hill, and over helpful configuration responded by handling more than 100 gigabytes of data from McGraw Hill, covering about 13, almost 14 million accounts, names, emails, phone numbers, postal addresses, everything you need to run a global phishing practicum minus the exam credit. Officially, McGraw Hill described this as an authorized access to a limited set of data from a web page hosted by Salesforce. In my personal opinion, the tech giant spent decades teaching students to check their works, then lost millions of their contact records because someone forgot to check a single checkbox in the cloud, proving that in cybersecurity, the answer is rarely 42, but is very often permission public.
Ouch. Stefano, really hitting the epic fail meter here. And, old school, brick and mortar, book and print, not immune. And the C word, cloud, coming back in, with a vengeance here. This hurts. And to me, the thing on the, heavy on the fail in this case for not doing the obvious, the straightforward, that's where I think this one really gets on our radar and our epic fail list for sure. Gordon?
And I think it's a timely reminder for us as cyber security professionals to maybe just slow down the pace a little to ensure that those kind of sort of trusted, well-worn, security checklists and methodology is applied in every situation, because there is pressure from outside to move quickly, to release sooner and sooner. And actually what you need to do is ensure that you are not that point of failure. Your system and your configurations are not letting it down, because as you said, Stefano, one click, one checkbox, and it is now millions of data points that are being exposed and exfiltrated. It's not thousands anymore. We are always talking every week about millions, and that's the scary thing.
I want to add a couple of things here. I brought it, this situation, this problem, this McGraw Hill leak, but I do not, let's say, presented it as an epic fail, because I am really experienced about managing incidents in the cloud, and I perfectly know that misconfigurations like this one can happen to everybody. We are not excluded by by the risk, okay? So from one side, I can understand that, and potentially compared to previous epic fails, I think this is something that potentially can go undetected for many reasons. From the other perspective, however, I am looking to highlight this in the news because this is still bringing the spotlight upon the cloud security again. This is a topic we discussed many times in the past, even in other episodes, in other, let's say, cases. But again, still, I noticed that many companies are not preparing themselves by bringing proper procedures to check configuration of their cloud infrastructures. And that is where the evil is in the devil is in details, right? So this is exactly the moment when you need to ensure a periodic assessment of your cloud infrastructures, your cloud configurations, by running these with a third party entities, or with your own internal team, but surely in a way that is more timely compared to the current situation that happened in McGraw Hill. And I notice it's common to many other cases. So I brought this into the news because it's a good ringing bell about the potential problems connected with the cloud security compared to the standard security that we have in our prems. In the cloud, you simply miss a checkbox and immediately you are potentially spawning an interface with a public IP address of your most secure system, or you are potentially, let's say, presenting the interface of your database. So surely what is important is to carefully craft and apply specific procedures regarding specific control, regarding the specific risk connected with the cloud. Just this, but still a huge quantity of things to do through this.
Yeah, Stefano, I really appreciate you kind of going back through that. I know we talk a lot on Hack Talks about, kind of the blast and the blast radius and what happens. And in this case, it's nice to be able to take it in the news and look down into it and expose some things about, cloud is supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be, make things more efficient and help organizations use, change their resourcing model. But in this case, on the security side, that script is flipped. And I really liked how you kind of walked down through that, how organizations need to spend the time and the effort, whether it's external or internal resources, but they can't, from a security perspective, treat cloud like the marketing, like the sales information for cloud. They really have to double down because the risk there is so great.
Yes.
So thank you for both those stories, and heed our warning and make sure that the topics we've covered in the news this week don't become epic fails in the future.
Resistance is futile.
And now on to the moment of truth. This week's epic fail. This is where we look at a cyber blunder, a slip up, or a downright questionable decision, and we rate it on our epic fail scale from 0 to 10. 0 is basically a rounding error, mostly harmless, and 10 is that fool, what the FIM were you thinking? So let's break down today's contender. And James, you're bringing us the epic fail this week. What do you have for us?
Sure, fail is on the brain here, guys, unfortunately, for everyone. And in this case, just let me set the story on why this ends up being a fail. We've got a researcher who is looking into exploits and vulnerabilities, and they get unhappy with how Microsoft is disclosing vulnerabilities. And you know what? They decide to lash out and make a point. And where this really escalates to 11, where we really go crazy here, is that this researcher is looking into Microsoft Defender vulnerabilities. So, now we're looking at EDR, and they're going to exploit 3 vulnerabilities, one called Blue Hammer, another one Red Sun, and something called Undefend, right? They're going to go after these vulnerabilities. By the way, Microsoft is patching these, right? These were incorporated in their big patch release that we've talked about. But if, as we cautioned and as we advised, if people don't get on this and patch as quickly as possible, the playbook here is brutal, right? They, yeah, an attacker can use Blue Hammer and Red Sun to gain system control and access, right? And then they can fire off undefend. So this is a layered approach. It's not a one and done, a one click kind of thing. This is a toolkit for attackers to use that quietly allow an attacker to break down defenders' capabilities, to sideline it so it's blind, and then they can take over. You know, not the typical smash and grab, but a layered approach to attack that's going to turn EDR into an accomplice, and then an attacker can own that environment and take their time. So I think this combination of, you know, many vulnerabilities and then being abused by a researcher, this puts this on my top 10 list. Guys, what do you think?
Yeah, I think honestly that this is a good example about how we need to think about the unthinkable. I want to clarify the point. Of course, there are vulnerabilities affecting, or even exploitation techniques affecting, let's say, other applications in our desktops that you can easily understand and easily justify. But then there are vulnerabilities that are targeting the core of your cybersecurity in your own desktop, like the Defender, right? So that, for me, I agree with you about the gravity, the seriousness of this specific type of vulnerabilities and the impact connected with that. Because in a generic sense, once you are in front of these vulnerabilities, you understand that you were living with a false sense of security for many months, let's say, at least, because these vulnerabilities are there from I don't know how many months or years, okay? They are bundled with the product, and the product is the Defender, is the ADR, the system that, the platform that should protect at least the generically speaking, the vast majority of the computers, not necessarily all the computers. There are other companies with the ADRs, with the antivirus, and so on and so forth. But this is bundled with the system. So basically, when your laptop or your workstation is released, this is the software that should protect it. So in a generic sense, I will surely push for more awareness and cautious from the vendor perspective. And from the other perspective, we surely need to push for more researches, for more tests about the quality of the EDR solutions that are running into our systems, because this can really be huge. And as anticipated regarding the patch Tuesday, now, because they release the patches, now the attackers are studying these patches and are trying to recover how this vulnerability works in a way that can be factorized into their attack techniques, which is obviously meaning we need to speed up the process of implementing these patches, unless we were risking to be easily exploited, even at the system level, by these vulnerabilities being totally undetected by the EDR that is running on these systems, and is also an accomplice for further down the road implementation of malicious tooling. That's the thing. So it's huge. It's huge. And again, I am not against any specific company, but the companies that are paving the way for our cybersecurity should be much more, let's say, conservative and protective about the products. Gordon, what you think?
It's really interesting to hear about this, and especially as it links back to what we were discussing within the news. And what strikes me is that are we getting a little complacent as security professionals? Is there now time for a need to kind of change our mindset? Have we entered into a kind of sort of new world of unintended consequences of the scale of breaches, the scale of risk, the scale of the impact that any particular attack or breach can happen? Do we need to recalibrate ourselves about just how vulnerable things are, the need to be vigilant, the need to be thorough in our approach to cybersecurity? And with all your experience, gentlemen, are we at that point? Is that what these stories are warning us, that we need to up our game?
Both, Gordon, right? I mean, right, I agree with you. The world is upside down and it's crazy and it's new. And the thing about that, and I really appreciate your comments here to this effect, is the not only is there a lot of change happening, but the pace of change is happening at a rate that is overwhelming us. Yeah, we still need to do the traditional things. As Stefano mentioned earlier, with cloud security, right? You still have to go back and do your job. We're not giving up the old precepts. We're just trying to forward them into an environment where change is moving at, kind of hyper speed, and we kind of don't know what that end game looks like yet.
We need to continue to keep a layered structure in our paradigm to operate with the cybersecurity, which means that from certain degrees, the impact of this set of vulnerabilities is very, very high because it's targeting the core of our protections. However, I think we need to keep the bar straight in front of us, considering that still the original paradigms like defense in depth, like zero trust, all that stuff that regulated our development, our design in the network security, in the system security, still are valid. The only problem, as James anticipated, is the evolutionary path that all these weaknesses, vulnerabilities, and attacks are taking, thanks also to the introduction of the AI, for sure, and the cloud and the OT and all the news that we have. But still, we need to keep the bar straight in front of us, keep the proper path aligned, that to surely effectively protect our infrastructures and environments, we still need to have a layered approach, and we still need to apply not just the patches, but also procedures, checks, periodic tests, and potentially ask for support from experts on specific topics to ensure that our systems, our networks, our infrastructures are well protected. This is still the only solution. Awareness and rapid application of recommendations and procedures are the only options I see and I foresee regarding the protection of infrastructures, not necessarily just the critical infrastructure, all the infrastructures.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, gentlemen. It was really thought-provoking sort of conversation that we had around that particular fail. But now we're time to lock in our scores. So Stefano, what's your score for this particular epic fail?
Well, from the technical perspective, is surely a 10. From the overall, let's say, components of our epic fail scoring, I think is a 9. All do considered.
And I certainly feel a 9 is appropriate as well. I also wanted to kind of rein us back in after our kind of sort of going off script last episode with an 11. So getting back, I don't want to have to start, working up new numbers and a new scale graphic. So I'm going to stick with 9 as well. But James, you brought this in and wanted to bring it to our attention and to our viewers' attention. So last view on it from you. What's your score for this one?
Yeah, coming off being drunk on epic fail there in the previous episode. Yeah, I agree. I think, normally I might say this is an 8 because we're all used to this a little bit, and it's kind of it's super serious, but it's also in a weird way low key. So what tips it up to the 9 for me is the fact that this is a security researcher. It's kind of like the system, getting into some drama and having a problem. So yeah, I think 9 guys. I like the fact that we're in agreement here. We've got to kind of find some epic fails where we disagree to have some knockout argument. But this one, yeah, hits us a 9.
This week's epic fail score was 9.
And if you're thinking, listening and thinking, oh, I've seen a fail that's bigger than that, then please do tell us. We want your nominations as well. So drop your score for this week's epic fail in the comments below, or suggest ones for another time. And before we wrap up, let's flip the mood with this week's mighty win, something genuinely uplifting from the cyber world, a moment of competence, cleverness, or just a rare feel-good story in a sometimes gloomy landscape. So this week is a global DDoS-for-hire crackdown that we read about in TechCrunch. An international law enforcement coalition scored a victory against booter services that enabled easy cyber attacks. In mid-April, Europol led a coordinated sting dubbed Operation Power Off to dismantle major DDoS-for-hire platforms. Europol just rage quit the DDoS kiddie economy by emailing it, in a move that feels equal parts cyber dad and psych ops. Law enforcement fired off 75,000 warning emails to people who paid for the DDoS-for-hire services, basically saying, we see you, stop it. Operation Power Off didn't just wag a finger. Cops seized servers, pulled user lists straight from the booter services, yanked 53 domains offline, made 4 arrests and kicked indoors with 24 search warrants. The message is loud and clear. Low skill, high impact DDoS isn't anonymous anymore. DDoS-for-hire made disruption easy, but now the barrier to entry includes getting a personal email from Europol. This isn't about bandwidth anymore. It's about accountability at internet scale. The era of consequence-free button mashing just took a massive hit. So, gentlemen, what are your thoughts on this, James?
Gordon, I love this. I love the point you're poking at here. Big win. Bad guys get taken down, right? And not just an email, but some people got their doors knocked on, and there are consequences, and that's what I love about this story. Maybe that makes me old school or something, but there are consequences to launching that attack. There are consequences to those actions that you, as a nefarious person, are taking and thinking you're anonymous. That's certainly a big win. And more. I'd like to see more of these things. Stefano, what do you think?
Well, it's more than 25 years, if I remember correctly, that I was looking for an action like this one regarding, let's say, the DDoS-for-hire. Because yes, there are other botnet took downs and other operations against botnet operators, but generically speaking, these type of operations engaging the law enforcement, despite very important and very good in terms of impact, they were not really addressing the specific problem of the DDoS-for-hire. They were addressing, more generically speaking, the problem of the botnets. Now we are making a step into the battle against these type of services that obviously you can, with a credit card, purchase to target a company that you don't like. Okay, so this is the moment when a number of these actors really need to take their responsibility regarding the action they took. So that is the first good news that I heard about this battle, and I hope that there are other operations regarding similar type of let's say situations in the coming months. For sure, it's a very good sign, because it's also giving the an advice. It's ringing a bell for the actors behind this problematic thing. So very good, very good.
Thank you. And one thing that really struck me was the exposure to the people in the marketplace as well. It wasn't just going after the guys that were profiting from it. It was also exposing, shining a light on those people that thought they would be able to go down the little kind of street market and be able to pick up, something dodgy for a cheap price, but then being shone a light in their face as well. I think that's a great way to undermine that whole sort of system that is in
Yes.
place there as well. And I think that's an interesting aspect to this as well. But yes, it was quite exciting to hear, as James was saying, like people having their doors knocked down and arrests being made. This wasn't just something that happened online. This was, had real life, real world consequences, and hopefully sends a message to people doing this kind of thing in the future. So that's the mighty win for this week. So a huge thanks to Stefano and James for joining me, and thank you for tuning in. This has been Hack Talks from NetWitness Incident Response, and we'll see you next time. So it's goodbye from me, Gordon, in Glasgow.
Goodbye from Rome. Ciao, guys.
Take care, everybody. Goodbye from somewhere traveling the roads in Michigan. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
You have been watching Hack Talks.